Python IDE, as well as Spider, which is like Spider-Man, but with Y instead of I. Okay, so there's plenty of Python IDEs. Yes. From our point of view, there are not such great differences between Python 2 and Python 3. Actually, the main difference lying in the syntax of print function, first of all, which is a function in Python 3, whereas is a kind of hybrid organism in Python 2 because it does not require any parentheses. Instead, it requires only a blank space between the function name, which is not exactly a function, and the argument or arguments. So this, from our point of view, there are very, very little differences. The point is that there is no reason to using an obsolescent, deprecated programming language version. There's no need. When the new one is available. Okay. So this is yeah. There is an empty seat. Okay. Okay, some a variable again once more is a label associated to some memory location in the memory of your computer. So you can the same way you do with a shelf, you do with a drawer in which you put something and then you throw away and put something else and so on. How many times you need, and you put something that fits the drawer or the shelf. And you cannot put something larger than the drawer on or the shelf. The same way in computer science, variables are used to label some spaces in which you place some values. There are two, broadly speaking, there are two large families of programming languages. The so-called statically typed programming languages such as C, for example, in which you have to define prior to their use which variable you want to use and which type of datum you want to insert into that shelf, into that box. And then there are dynamically typed programming languages such as Python, for example, in which you simply baptize a new drawer, a new variable, by simply using it. For example, message equal hello world, and the interpreter in this case, or the compiler for compiled languages, automatically understand that this variable, this memory location or set of memory locations is intended to host, to store some characters, to host a string or a floating point number or an integer number or whatever. So depending on what you place on the right hand side of equality, the type is of the variable is determined. This is a very important step. In ancient times of computer science, programming languages strictly required to define the type of each variable. When you studied C, you learned that you have to define this is an integer, this is a floating point, this is a long integer, this is a short integer, this is a long unsigned, a short unsigned, and so on. Something similar is required in another old programming language which is named Fortran. Which dates back to the 60s of the past century, so it's more than 60 years old. At that time, you had to define prior to their use which variables you intended to use and which type they had. In Python, this is not the case. You have to define a variable prior to its use, and you have to declare which type a variable is. You simply work with variables. You simply work with a variable, for example, x equals 12. Print x and print type of x. It's okay? It's okay? Okay, so what happens? It happens that I'm using two functions. Of course, print you already saw yesterday, which displays the content of a variable or a message or whatever. And then I'm using another function which is called type, which is intended to display which type of variable x is, currently is. So we are returned with the first line is 12, which is the value of x. The second row is the second line is class int. So x is currently an integer variable, and it's an integer variable only because we stored in it an integer value. I can immediately change and I am returned with, of course, the content the same way as before, but now it's a string and not namely a sequence of characters. This is what strings are in Python, as well as in other programming languages, of course. And this is which type of variable now x is. There is a question from Daniar Baisalov. Please go ahead.
Excuse me, Professor. I think you forgot to share your screen because we don't hear. We don't see anything.
Thank you. And sorry for forgetting. Is it okay now?
Yes,
yes,
Professor.
yes. Thank you.
Okay, sorry again. Is it okay? Any question? Any problem? It's okay for online students?
Yes,
Yes,
Professor.
as we can see.
Now, is it okay with what I said? If you're gonna wait. What should I repeat? Hello? Nobody knows. Okay, so again, the type of a variable is defined, but by its. So if I define a an important tip about the use of Jupyter notebooks are the following. First of all, the cells contain are indexed with a number, a progressive number, 1, 2, 3, and so on. While a cell is running, cells can be run independently from each other. So you execute one cell at a time first. 2. While a cell is running, so before the completion of computations inside the cell, you will not see the number. Instead, you see an asterisk. So let me for in range. Do you see? There is an asterisk, and when it ends, is replaced by the number. Okay? Okay. Online students, are you there?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we are here.
Okay, I would like to know how many of you installed Python or Anaconda or whichever. Please raise your hands, raise your online hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. Why all the others did not install? 5.
Sir, I wasn't present yesterday.
Okay. And all the others but 1?